How's it going, everyone? This is Yasser back with another video. Today, we're going to be talking about the resume, everyone's favorite subject when it comes to job search. And we're going to talk about some essential components you should have on a resume. And I want to give you my perspective as a former recruiter, someone who used to pretty much every single day go through hundreds of resumes, scanning through keywords and whatnot. Got a pretty good idea what kind of resume makes the cut, what kind of resume doesn't make the cut. The good news is there's not a whole lot that you got to think about when writing a resume as long as you've got a proper template to work with, okay? People make this a lot more complicated than it needs to be. I'm also going to be talking about some unconventional things that people do thinking is going to help them stand out, which they don't really work, okay? So if you want more videos like this, please be sure to like this video to show your support, subscribe to the channel so I can know you guys are enjoying the content I'm putting out. Now let's talk about some resume strategies that I've seen as a recruiter that don't really work, okay? The number one thing I can tell you is the fancier you try to make a resume, the more difficult you're going to make it for a recruiter. When we're doing the same thing over and over again, okay, we're going through resumes again and again and again, what really helps is having a similar template or having something predictable where we know where to find things. If I know that the summary is going to be the top, the work experience is going to be next, and the education section, and every resume is going to be like that, I'm going to be a lot faster at my job, right? I'm just going to know where the information is. I'm not going to have to look through different designs of resumes over and over again. But now you have a lot of these fancy designs where they have work experience on the right side, skills on the left side, and they have little graphs and bars and rating their skills and all of that. There's a lot going on. I think people do this because I think that their resume really needs to be appealing and stand out. But honestly, the simpler you make it, the better. Think about it like reading a book. You open a book, no matter which book it is, you know it's going to go from left to right, assuming it's in English. It's going to be a title at the top. There's going to be text starting from the left. There's going to be a paragraph that ends and a new paragraph is going to start. That's how a book works. The more predictable it is, the easier it is for you to read. Now imagine you picked up another book and it started from the right side, or maybe it was center aligned, or maybe one paragraph was center aligned, one paragraph was on the left. Your mind's going to be kind of all over the place, right? You're not really going to know, where do I start reading? So with a resume, what I'm trying to say is make it as predictable as possible, okay? Try not to stand out. Now, this might be like, what do you mean, Yasser? There's so many other people applying for a job. How do I not stand out? Listen, I'm not saying you need to completely follow the most generic template you can. What I'm saying is pick an easy-to-read template. Pick a template that's standard. Pick a template that recruiters are familiar with so they know how to find your information, okay? I'll show you some basic components of my resume right here. Let's go on to my blank little screen. Some components that you're probably familiar with are going to be the summary section, okay? You usually should see this right at the top where you see the name, then the LinkedIn URL, all that stuff. Summary section, this is usually I am a great candidate, blah, blah, blah. Or maybe you'll have a highlights section here instead where you can have three to 5 points about how you fit the job description, okay? So let's just divide these up. You've got this, you've got that, okay? Next up, you'll either have your education section or you'll have your work experience. Now, it depends on what role you're applying to, depends on how much experience you have. If you are someone who has work experience, I would put that first because as a recruiter, I can tell you the first thing our eyes will dart to, highlight section, immediately after that, straight to work experience. So if you have work experience, put that up here. Now, that is under the assumption that the experience you have is relevant. If you are applying to a job right out of college and they require a bachelor's degree and they require maybe an MBA and you've got an MBA, specifically tell them that you have that MBA. So then your education might come up a little higher. So let me just move my screen a little bit here so you guys can see. Okay, so we've got all this stuff going on here. Work experience, and then we're going to have our education section, and then what I've also seen is people throwing in a skills section, okay? Now, some people might even throw in their skills section a little higher up. Now, this depends on the role. A very common template you will see is, you will see summary, After summary, you might have a couple of points, 3 to 5 points about how they fit the role. Then you might have a skills section underneath where they'll have all kinds of fancy terms like leadership, project management, whatever. You'll have like 6, 7 different points here, okay? And then you will have work experience, yada, yada, yada. Now, both of these formats are fine. They're fine because they're predictable, right? I know the way a resume is usually laid out. It starts with a name, it goes into your summary or your highlights, it goes into your work experience, it goes into your education, it goes into your skill section. If you follow this template, there's honestly not a lot you can mess up. There really isn't. It's predictable. I know where to look, and there's relevant information. Now, assuming there is relevant information. This version of it might be very useful for you if you are applying for a role that requires a specific skill set. So, for example, if you are applying for, let's get rid of all this. If you are applying for, say, a software role, right, and they might require C# or whatever these softwares are. I've seen all these software. I have no idea what they do, but I've hired for them. JavaScript. So if you have these things that the hiring manager is looking for in the job description, you can definitely have a skill section. And under that skill section, you can write all these things that you have them. Now, I wouldn't advise just writing this down because then they don't know the extent of your experience. But that's a topic for another video. What I'm trying to say is the easiest way for you to write a resume, make it predictable. Make it super predictable. Try not to stand out. Literally, just don't try it. Follow a template that's worked for other people. Now, if you are someone who has work experience, again, we'll start with your summary, or this could also be your highlights, okay? And then right at the top, you want to show me anywhere from 3 to 5 points about how you fit the role. So, for example, if they're looking for customer service experience, they're looking for accounting experience, and they're looking for what else? Maybe QuickBooks, a software, okay? You want to show me right at the top of your resume how you fit that. So you'll have customer service. Ignore my fantastic writing, by the way. You'll have QuickBooks, and then you will have, what else did we mention here? Accounting, okay? You will show them that you have this experience. You'll write down the title, and for each of them, you'll provide proof. So you can say, provided customer service to whatever, QuickBooks, used software to do ABC. You kind of get what I'm saying. So if these are the primary things they're looking for in a candidate, you want to show right up front, right at the top. Now, a big mistake people make on the resume is they make the recruiter actually go through the resume to search for it, right? If I am looking for, again, let's take the same example. If I'm looking for customer service, if I am looking for accounting, and I go through your resume, and again, we've got your summary, we've got your skills, we've got education, and then we've got work experience, and maybe line number 2 and line number 3 is accounting here, and then you've got QuickBooks as a software that you use here, right? By the time I go through your summary, I go through your skills section, I go through your education, I go through your work section, then all the way at the bottom, I actually find what I'm looking for. That might take me too long. If you think about it, the average recruiter makes a lot of snap decisions, like 6 seconds or less, or maybe depending on the more relevant experience they see. So if your entire first page is completely irrelevant, there's not a whole lot of reason for the recruiter to continue on to the second page, because you want to bring your best stuff forward. You really want to show, this is how I'm so experienced. So a lot of people, what they do is with their work experience or with their resume, all of the good stuff is deep down buried somewhere in their resume. They don't really know where it is, and the recruiters, they find it really, really hard to find it. So my advice is, when you are putting a resume together, don't make it too complicated. Don't try to go out of your way to stand out. Keep it super simple, okay? And the most simple that I can tell you, start with your name, your address, just write your city, that should be good enough, your phone number, your LinkedIn. After that, you can have your summary or your highlights section, 3 to 5 points of how you fit the job description. Now, do you have the job description they're looking for? bring out all the good stuff right at the top. Okay, you have that at the top, your summary, your highlight section. Right after that, have your work experience section, especially if your work experience is really relevant. Write down your work experience. Don't try to write about anything and everything you did there. Try to write 3 bullet points that are very, very relevant to that role. Okay, try to make them sound like achievements, not like operated cash register or provided customer service. That's something anyone could have done. It's not an accomplishment, it's a duty. Be specific and be quantifiable. Provided customer service to 45 customers on a daily basis, something like that. Something that gives me numbers to work with and gives me an idea of what you specifically did, not what anyone would have done. Okay, so you've got your work experience section. Then you can also add your skills there as well. So what some people do is in their work experience, they'll write down a couple of things like did this, and they'll write skills, whatever skills you use that are relevant to the job. So for example, if you've used certain software like Microsoft Suite, you've used Facebook ads, and you use that in your job, instead of having a skills section on your resume, you can just write it underneath the work experience section where you use that, and you can do that for every single position. So whichever software you were using in that position, you can write it in that work experience. And at the end, you can have your education section. Now, if you're someone who freshly graduated and you don't really have any extracurricular experience, or you don't have any relevant experience, then yes, you can bring your education section forward. But what I'm trying to say is, if you follow this method, if you keep it super predictable, honestly, if it's worked in the past, it's going to work again. I see so many people experiment with these really, really fancy resumes with like graphs and like they'll rate their skills. I've seen this a lot. They'll have like MS Suite 6 out of 10 or JavaScript 5 out of 10. They'll rate their own skills. Like if you're not great at it, don't tell everyone you're a 5 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10. Just write down the skills that you have. When they call you up and they ask you about their skills, you can tell them specifically about how much you've used them, what kind of exposure you have. You can talk to them all about that stuff, okay? And then all these fancy colors and everything, keep it super simple. What I've also seen is a lot of people will pay to have their resume made by someone else, and I think if someone is an expert, absolutely you should do that. The problem is, and I'd be really careful, some resume writers want to make your resume look as beautiful, as pretty, as amazing, as graphically diverse as possible, so you think it looks great, okay? Not necessarily the actual employer it's intended for. They'll give it to you and you look at all the fancy colors, all the fancy graphs, and you'll be like, wow, this is such a beautiful resume. I can't believe it. This is going to kill it. But it really doesn't, right? The simplest resumes are always going to be the best, in my opinion. I love it. The more simple the resume is, the easier it is to read, the easier it is to for a recruiter to connect the dots, okay? If you want more information about how to write your resumes, in the description right now, you can find my top 10 tips about resume writing. It also includes a full template of how to actually write a resume, kind of like I just explained it now, but with some more individual points as well. So make sure to download that for free in the job description. Now, if you are in the video description, I'm stuck thinking like a recruiter still. If you are interested in working with me, if you want my help to help you find a job, I do run a program called the Job Search Accelerator. You can find some of my client testimonials here. Essentially what I do is I help people get interviews through smart networking where they don't have to wait and apply online to a million different places. As you can see, just about every one of my clients that I've worked with have got an interview or the other, and this is through smart networking strategies. So if you are interested in working with me, you can go ahead and apply. Information for that is in the description again. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please let me know in the comments section if you did. If there's something I didn't mention, if there's something you'd like me to make a video about in the future, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to do it. Up until then, take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.